You might be startled to know this, but right now, as you sit quietly or watch this on your screen, something remarkable is happening inside your body. Cells are dying, cells are being born, organs are begging for nourishment they have not received in years, and your immune system is fighting battles you never see. If you could look inside for even a moment, you would be shocked by how hard your body is working to keep you alive. Most illnesses do not begin with symptoms. They begin with starvation. Not starvation of food, but starvation of the tiny cellular processes that allow healing, balance, and renewal. People think disease begins with pain or discomfort, but that is never where it begins. It begins silently when the body has been forced to run on empty for too long. And here comes the part almost no one is told. You do not need complicated pharmaceuticals or dozens of prescriptions to bring the body back into harmony. Sometimes all it takes is one gentle mixture prepared correctly and allowed to rest overnight. 2 simple ingredients your ancestors used for thousands of years, and 1 night of patience. Hello, I am Barbara O'Neill. Today I want to share a story woven through Buddhist tradition and preserved in the mountain temples of Asia. It is the story of a young man searching for a way to save his dying mother, a revered Buddhist master, and a healing mixture so simple that people often overlook its power. A blend of pure olive oil and natural honey, 2 gifts that awaken natural healing in the body when used correctly. Stay with me until the end, because this is not merely a story, it is a lesson that may change how you care for your health forever. Before I take you into the mountains, I want you to understand something important. Most people today live with 4 hidden imbalances that slowly break down the body over time: chronic inflammation, digestive weakness, liver burden, and oxidative stress. These conditions do not make noise, they whisper, and people often blame them on age. But they are not age. They are the body quietly struggling to cope with a modern world filled with processed oils, preservatives, stress hormones, and environmental toxins. Our ancestors did not face these daily pressures. Your body is not weak, it is overwhelmed. This is why the combination of olive oil and honey can feel so miraculous. And if you feel ready to hear this story, if something inside you is already leaning forward with curiosity, type ready in the comments below. Now, let me take you into the mountains where this journey truly begins. There once lived a young man named Nima in a quiet valley tucked beneath the towering Himalayas, a valley so peaceful that the wind itself seemed to move with gentleness. It was the kind of place where prayer flags danced in sunlight, where the chirping of birds replaced the sound of traffic, and where people still believed that nature had a voice if one simply slowed down enough to listen. In that valley, Nima lived with his mother, Lamo. She was his world. His father had passed away when Nima was only a baby, taken suddenly by complications of diabetes and a chest infection that the village doctor struggled to treat. Nima grew up hearing only stories of his father, stories about his laughter, his kindness, and the way he used to carry Nima on his shoulders. Because of that loss, Nima clung to his mother with every part of his heart. She was the reason he woke each morning with purpose. She was the one who taught him how to tie his shoes, how to gather herbs in the forest, how to speak kindly, and how to listen when the world grew quiet. For many years, their life was simple, peaceful, and complete. They tended a small vegetable garden, cooked meals over an open flame, and walked together by the river whenever the weather was kind. In the evenings, they sat outside under the stars, watching the pale glow of the moon reflect off the snowy peaks. Sometimes they talked, and other times they simply breathed side by side, knowing that silence between loved ones can be far more intimate than words. But as time passed, an invisible shadow began creeping over Lamo's health. It started with tiredness, the kind of tiredness that does not go away after sleep. Then came aches in her joints. Then came repeated infections that refused to heal. At first, she dismissed it, saying age was catching up with her, but this was no ordinary aging. She began losing weight quickly. Her appetite disappeared. Her breath grew shallow, and her once bright eyes dimmed. She tried to hide her pain from Nima, but he saw everything. The village doctor gave her medicines, little white tablets, syrups that tasted of chemicals, powders that stirred into warm water. But with every passing month, her strength faded even more. Some days she could barely lift her head, and Nima lay awake at night, listening to her laboured breathing, terrified that she might leave him the same way his father had. One night, as her fever burned and her skin felt cold and damp, Nima knelt beside her and whispered, "Mother, please tell me what to do. Please tell me how to help you." She reached up with a trembling hand and rested it against his cheek. Her touch was weak, but her voice held a softness that cut straight into his heart. "My son," she whispered, "there is always a path to healing if we seek it with faith, but sometimes the path is hidden in places we would never think to look." Nima held her hand and promised he would find that path, no matter how far he had to walk. That very night, as if destiny itself had heard him, a travelling monk arrived in the valley. He wore a faded robe that fluttered in the mountain breeze and carried a wooden staff smooth from years of use. His sandals were dusty, but his presence was calm and steady. When he heard of Lamo's illness, he visited their home without hesitation. He knelt beside her bed, touched her wrist with gentle fingers, and closed his eyes. After a long moment, he opened them and said quietly, "This illness is not her end. Her body is not asking for more medicine, it is asking for nourishment and balance." He told Nima about a monastery high in the mountains, a place known in Buddhist teachings as the Hill of 10 Winds. There lived a sage who had spent his life studying the healing properties of nature, a man who understood the body the way a gardener understands the soil. Many people had climbed the mountain seeking answers, some arriving broken, some desperate, some hopeless, and many of them had returned healed and whole. With nothing left to lose, Nima began his journey at sunrise. He wrapped himself in his warmest shawl, packed a small bundle of food, and carried with him the fragile hope of saving his mother's life. The journey was harsh, the winds were sharp and cold. The path was steep and unforgiving. He slipped on loose stones, scraped his hands on jagged rocks, and drank from icy streams when his throat went dry. On the third day, just as the sun dipped behind the snowy peaks, he saw the monastery perched on the mountain like a sacred jewel. Prayer flags fluttered like colourful birds, carrying ancient prayers into the sky. Inside, the sage sat cross-legged beside a vessel of steaming herbs. His hair was silver, his eyes deep and clear, and he had a presence so peaceful that even the wind seemed to pause in his presence. Before Nima could explain why he had come, the sage said, "You carry fear like a stone in your chest. Sit, breathe, and speak." And so Nima told him everything: his mother's suffering, his father's death, the medicines that failed, the nights of fear, the ache in his heart. The sage listened without interrupting, his face calm and compassionate. When Nima finished, the sage reached behind him and placed 2 jars on the table. One was filled with pure golden honey that glowed like morning sunlight. The other held deep green olive oil that shimmered like forest leaves. "This is what your mother needs," the sage said softly. "Not chemicals, not force, but nourishment." These 2 gifts of nature have been used for thousands of years in Buddhist, Ayurvedic, and Mediterranean traditions, long before clinics and laboratories existed. He lifted the jar of honey and said, "Honey is the healer." In its raw state, it carries enzymes that repair tissues, plant compounds that fight harmful microbes, antioxidants that reverse inflammation, and natural sugars that fuel the body without harming it. Modern researchers agree with this truth. Honey strengthens the immune system, calms the lining of the gut, feeds beneficial bacteria, and supports healing from deep within. Then he lifted the olive oil, and this oil is the protector. Pure, cold-pressed olive oil nourishes the heart, reduces inflammation in the organs, supports the brain, improves the liver's ability to cleanse the blood, and stabilizes blood sugar. It contains compounds that modern scientists now study with fascination, yet ancient healers already knew these truths. Nima asked quietly, "But why must they be mixed together?" The master smiled. "Alone, they help, but together, they transform. Honey stabilizes the oil. The oil protects the honey's enzymes from breaking down. Honey draws nutrients into the tissues, while the oil carries them deeper. And when the mixture is left overnight, the molecules align in a way that your mother's body will recognize with ease." He instructed Nima with great care. Warm 1 cup of water gently. Stir 2 spoonfuls of raw honey until it dissolves. Add 4 spoonfuls of extra virgin olive oil and mix slowly. Pour the mixture into a dark glass jar and let it rest through the night. Each morning, give your mother 1 spoonful on an empty stomach. Before Nima left, the sage placed a hand over his heart and said, "Heal her not only with this mixture, but with your presence, your patience, and your belief. Illness weakens the body, but hopelessness weakens the spirit. Let her borrow your strength until hers returns." Nima hurried home, his heart glowing with purpose. He prepared the mixture exactly as taught, watched it rest silently through the night, and at dawn placed a spoonful on his mother's tongue. On the first day, she felt warmth in her stomach. On the second day, her pain softened. On the third day, her appetite returned. 1 week later, her fevers faded. 2 weeks later, she began walking again. And 1 month later, she was tending her garden, humming softly as she worked, the sunlight glowing on her skin. Word spread quickly. Villagers watched in awe, unable to believe their eyes. The woman who had been fading away now looked alive again. People from nearby villages visited, asking where this healing had come from. And Nima shared everything the sage taught him. Soon, the mixture of honey and olive oil travelled farther than he ever imagined, reaching neighbouring mountains and distant valleys. It did not cure all suffering, but it awakened something far more important. It reminded people that healing begins with nourishment, that nature still holds answers, that the body, when given what it needs, remembers how to heal. Now let us bring this ancient knowledge gently into the modern world, where microscopes reveal truths monks once sensed with intuition, and where biochemistry quietly confirms what nature has been whispering for thousands of years. We live in an age where researchers can watch a cell repair itself, where we can see inflammation rise under stress, and where we can trace the journey of nutrients through the bloodstream. In many ways, science is only now describing, in detailed language, what traditional healers expressed through observation, wisdom, and reverence for the natural world. Today, we understand with remarkable clarity why this simple mixture of honey and olive oil supports the body so deeply. Ancient healers did not have laboratory equipment. They watched how the body responded to food. They observed how people recovered when nourished, rested, and cared for. They believed that nature carried its own form of intelligence. And quietly, without fanfare, modern science is beginning to agree. When the master said the body needs nourishment more than medicine, he was describing something that biologists today call the restoration of homeostasis. Homeostasis is simply the body returning to balance, a state in which every organ can carry out its work without strain. It is the opposite of stress. It is the condition your cells long for. Honey and olive oil do not force the body to change. They do not push or overwhelm. Instead, they offer the molecular tools the body has been missing. They provide antioxidants that protect the cells from damage and healthy fats that stabilize the nervous system. When the body receives these ingredients, it remembers what it is meant to do. This is why natural healing always begins with nourishment. The moment you feed the body the right materials, something begins to awaken inside. Enzymes become more efficient. The liver begins to lighten its load. The gut lining starts to repair tiny microscopic tears. The blood becomes smoother and more oxygen-rich. The nervous system begins to calm. If you want to feel that gentle shift in your own life, that sense of calm returning to your body, type calm in the comments below. I want to see how many of you are ready to begin this simple healing journey together. Science shows us that honey contains hundreds of bioactive compounds that help reduce oxidative stress and support the immune system. Olive oil contains polyphenols that protect the brain, monounsaturated fats that support the heart, and antioxidants that calm the inflammatory pathways that modern life so often ignites. When these two are combined, their benefits don't simply add together, they harmonize, much like two instruments creating a richer, fuller note when played side by side. This is not superstition, it is not a myth, it is physiology aligned with nature. It is the body receiving exactly what it recognizes, exactly what it understands, exactly what it has been quietly waiting for. And perhaps the most beautiful part is this: your body has never stopped trying to heal you. Even on your most difficult days, it has been working behind the scenes. When honey enters the stomach, it does not behave like an ordinary food. It arrives carrying the essence of thousands of flowers, each one touched by sunlight, rain, and soil. Bees are nature's tiny chemists. They travel from bloom to bloom, collecting nectar drop by drop, concentrating the healing chemistry of entire meadows into a single spoonful. When you take in honey, you are taking in the concentrated life force of plants, shaped and refined by the bees with astonishing precision. Modern science has begun examining honey the way monks once examined nature, slowly and with reverence. Researchers have identified flavonoids, phenolic acids, trace minerals, enzymes, amino acids, organic acids, and antioxidants in honey, substances that gently protect cells from oxidative stress. Scientists can now measure how honey lowers inflammation markers in the blood. They can see how it calms irritated tissues, supports the immune system, and assists the body's processes of repair. What ancient healers understood through intuition, modern laboratories now observe through microscopes. This is why honey cannot be reduced to a mere sweetener. It is a living food carrying molecular intelligence. It communicates with the body rather than overwhelming it, guiding it back toward balance. One of honey's most profound effects occurs in the digestive system, a place monks often refer to as the first temple of health. The stomach is more than a container for food. It is a gateway between the external world and the inner systems of the body, and honey knows exactly how to work there. Honey lays down a soothing layer along the stomach lining, calming areas of irritation that come from stress, poor eating habits, or long-standing imbalance. It nourishes beneficial bacteria, those tiny companions living inside the gut, who help digest food, produce vitamins, and regulate inflammation. Modern researchers call this the gut microbiome. Ancient monks simply called it the inner garden. Honey helps this garden flourish. It encourages the growth of friendly microbes, while naturally discouraging the overgrowth of microbes that create discomfort or inflammation. In doing so, it strengthens the integrity of the gut barrier, keeping unwanted substances from slipping into the bloodstream. This barrier is vital for health. When it is strong, the entire body feels lighter and clearer. When it is weakened, inflammation rises throughout the system. Many chronic conditions begin with a troubled gut, even though the symptoms appear elsewhere in the body. This is why honey's soothing and nourishing qualities are so valued in natural healing traditions. Buddhist monks and traditional healers around the world have used honey for centuries to calm the digestive tract, long before scientific language existed. Today, we can explain the effects in biological terms, but the core truth remains unchanged. Honey supports harmony in the digestive system, and when the gut is calm, the entire body benefits. The heart softens, the mind quiets, the nervous system steadies, the immune system performs its work with greater confidence. In this way, honey becomes far more than food. It becomes a teacher, reminding the body of its natural rhythm, its inherent intelligence, and its remarkable ability to heal when given the right conditions. Olive oil brings its own healing language, one that speaks softly to the body the way sunlight speaks to a growing tree. When olive oil is pure, truly cold-pressed, and untouched by heat or chemicals, it carries the living essence of the olive fruit, a food that has sustained entire civilizations for thousands of years. There is a reason the olive tree is often called the tree of life. It lives for centuries, even through storms and droughts, and its fruit holds the strength of those seasons. Inside pure olive oil are monounsaturated fats that act like gentle caretakers for the heart. They keep the blood vessels smooth and supple, supporting the natural rhythm of circulation. These healthy fats help maintain fluidity in the cell membranes, allowing nutrients, oxygen, and signals to move in and out of the cells more efficiently. This is not myth or folklore. Researchers have watched this happen under microscopes and have measured its benefits in countless studies. But olive oil holds something even more extraordinary, something monks understood intuitively long before science gave it a name. Within the oil are polyphenols, powerful plant compounds with remarkable antioxidant abilities. When these polyphenols enter the bloodstream, they begin searching for oxidative stress, a kind of internal rust created by toxins, stress hormones, unhealthy fats, and environmental chemicals. Oxidative stress is one of the silent accelerators of aging. It weakens immunity, inflames organs, and makes recovery slower than it should be. The polyphenols in olive oil gently reduce this burden. They quiet the internal fires that drive inflammation. They protect the delicate tissues inside the arteries. They support the liver as it filters the blood. And they help the immune system stay alert without becoming overactive. Modern researchers now consider olive oil one of the most protective foods for cardiovascular health, something ancient healers understood simply by observing the people who consumed it daily. And then there is the brain, the organ that feels every emotion, every worry, every joy. When the Master said olive oil nourishes the brain, he spoke a truth we can now see clearly in scientific imaging. The polyphenols in olive oil protect neurons from damage. They reduce inflammation in the nervous system, something that contributes to brain fog, mood disturbances, and cognitive decline. They support the formation of new neural pathways and help the brain maintain clarity and steadiness even as the years pass. Scientists examining brain scans see a pattern. People who consume pure olive oil regularly tend to have healthier brain tissue, less inflammation, and more stable cognitive function. But monks did not need brain scans to understand this. They watched how the mind softened, how thought became clearer, how mood stabilized, and how memory brightened when olive oil became part of daily nourishment. Olive oil communicates with the body in a way that is both biological and intuitive. It calms the heart's workload. It steadies the mind. It eases inflammation throughout the body. And it restores a kind of grounded energy, the kind that makes you feel more present, more centered, more alive in your own skin. This is why olive oil was treasured in ancient healing traditions. Not because it was rare, but because it was reliable, because it supported the body gently, day after day. Because it was nourished without being overwhelmed, because it carried the quiet resilience of the olive tree itself. And when combined with honey, as the Master taught Nima, its healing language becomes even more harmonious, a blend of sweetness and strength, warmth and calm, protection and repair, supporting the body in ways modern science continues to uncover. Together, honey and olive oil create a synergy, a kind of gentle partnership that is far more powerful than anything they could accomplish on their own. In healing traditions across the world, there is a saying that when two natural medicines work in harmony, the body responds as though it has been waiting for that exact combination. And that is precisely what happens here. Honey brings soothing sweetness and active enzymes. Olive oil brings calm, strength, and steady nourishment. When they meet, something extraordinary happens. Honey stabilizes the oil, preventing it from overwhelming the stomach. It turns the oil into something the body can welcome rather than struggle with. At the same time, olive oil shelters the delicate enzymes found in honey, protecting them from breaking down too quickly. These enzymes are living messengers, tiny workers that support digestion, immunity, and tissue repair. When olive oil slows its breakdown, the body receives its full benefit. And when the mixture is left overnight, something even more beautiful unfolds. The compounds inside the honey and the oil gently align, almost like two instruments tuning themselves to the same frequency. Their molecules soften and blend, creating a tonic the body can absorb with remarkable ease. The mixture becomes more than food, more than a remedy. It becomes nourishment in its purest form. When this mixture reaches the stomach, its healing begins almost immediately. Honey glides over the irritated lining, calming the inflamed areas that cause burning and discomfort. Olive oil coats the inner walls like a soft protective layer, shielding the tissues from the harshness of stomach acids. Together, they ease the sharpness of acid reflux and quiet the churning that so many people live with day after day. And then something remarkable happens in the liver, the organ responsible for detoxifying the entire body. Olive oil gently signals the liver to release healthy bile. Not too much, not too little, but just enough to help break down fats in the digestive system. Bile is essential for cleansing, for digestion, for balancing hormones, and for carrying toxins out of the body. And the liver responds beautifully to the fats found in pure olive oil. It uses them as building blocks to create smooth, balanced bile. Honey joins this partnership by delivering antioxidants, tiny molecules that protect the liver from oxidative stress, a kind of internal rust created by toxins, chemicals, and chronic inflammation. Oxidative stress is one of the silent reasons the liver becomes sluggish and overburdened. But honey's antioxidants act like shields, preserving the liver's cells and allowing them to function with renewed strength. Together, they lift a heavy load from the liver, allowing it to do the job it was designed to do: cleanse the blood, support digestion, regulate hormones, and keep the body in balance. A nourished liver is a powerful ally, and this mixture nourishes it deeply. So, what begins in the stomach does not stay in the stomach. It becomes a full body ripple, a soothing of the digestive tract, a calming of the liver. This is why the mixture has been treasured across centuries. Not because it is flashy or complicated, but because it supports the body the way nature always intended, gently, consistently, and in harmony with the rhythms of life. In the intestines, something truly magical begins to unfold. Honey becomes food for the beneficial bacteria that live deep within the digestive tract. These tiny organisms are not just passengers inside the body. They are workers, defenders, communicators, and healers. When they are fed well, they produce short-chain fatty acids, small compounds that reduce inflammation, strengthen the gut lining, and support immunity at its very core. These short-chain fatty acids tell the immune system when to rise and when to rest, helping prevent the overactive responses that cause autoimmune flares and the underactive responses that leave people vulnerable to infection. Olive oil enters this environment like a wise companion. It supports the growth of specific gut microbes linked to long life and a healthy metabolism. Modern researchers call these microbes longevity strains because people who carry them tend to live longer, age more gracefully. These microbes thrive in the presence of the healthy fats found in olive oil, especially the monounsaturated fats and polyphenols that act as gentle protectors inside the gut. When honey and olive oil arrive together, the effect is a beautifully balanced ecosystem. Honey feeds the good bacteria. Olive oil nourishes them and helps maintain their environment. Harmful microbes begin to fade, useful microbes expand, and slowly, steadily, the microbiome begins to flourish. And when your microbiome is in balance, the entire body begins to shift into a healthier state. Digestion becomes smoother, bloating eases, absorption of nutrients improves. Immunity strengthens because nearly 70% of the immune system lives in the gut. Mood becomes more stable because the gut produces most of the serotonin that keeps the mind calm. Even hormones fall into better rhythm because a healthy gut helps break down excess hormones and remove them from the body. This is why so many people feel lighter, calmer, and clearer after just a few days of using the mixture. It is not simply improving digestion, it is restoring the very foundation of health. If you want to feel lighter too, even in the smallest, gentlest way, type lighter in the comments below. It helps me see how many of you are ready to give your body this chance to breathe again. As the mixture moves from the gut into the bloodstream, its antioxidants begin performing another essential task. They travel along the blood vessels, protecting the arteries from inflammation and easing the strain on the heart. The cardiovascular system is incredibly sensitive to inflammation, and both honey and olive oil offer healing gifts in this area. Olive oil contains polyphenols that prevent the oxidation of LDL particles. Modern researchers recognize this as one of the most important factors in preventing heart disease. Oxidized LDL is what allows cholesterol to stick to artery walls. When olive oil prevents this oxidation, the arteries stay clean, smooth, and flexible. Blood flows more freely, blood pressure becomes easier to maintain. The heart does not have to work as hard to push blood through the body. Honey joins this work with its own unique set of tools. It contains plant compounds that support the inner lining of the blood vessels and reduce the risk of microbial infections that quietly weaken the cardiovascular system. Some infections can inflame the heart, irritate the arteries, or destabilize the immune cells that protect the bloodstream. Honey's natural antibacterial properties help keep these threats in check. So, with every spoonful, the mixture becomes a quiet guardian for the heart. The arteries stay softer, the vessels remain more elastic, the blood flows with greater ease. And the heart, that tireless muscle that beats over 100,000 times a day, receives the support it needs to keep going strong. This is the beauty of honey and olive oil. They do not force the body, they support it, they nourish it, they remind it how to function the way it was always designed to function, calmly and with wisdom. In the joints, this mixture becomes a quiet blessing. Anyone who has lived with stiffness, swelling, or that deep, aching heaviness knows that joint pain is not only physical, it affects the way a person moves, breathes, and even thinks. But when honey and olive oil enter the bloodstream, they travel toward those inflamed areas like a pair of gentle healers. Honey brings its anti-inflammatory flavonoids, plant compounds designed by nature to calm irritation deep inside the tissues. Olive oil brings its healthy, lubricating fats, which slip between the joint spaces like a soothing balm. Together, they begin reducing the inflammation that has been tightening those joints for years. People who suffer from arthritis often notice relief far sooner than they expect. Not because this mixture numbs the pain, but because it addresses the root of the pain, the fire of inflammation itself. When that fire cools, movement becomes easier, mornings become less rigid, and life feels a little more open again. And then there is the brain, that remarkable organ that carries every memory, every thought, every dream. The master used to say, honey awakens gentle energy and olive oil nourishes the mind, and now we understand exactly why. Honey supports stable blood sugar levels, which is one of the most important ways to protect the brain. The brain is a sensitive organ. It relies on a steady, reliable supply of energy. When blood sugar rises and falls too sharply, the brain feels it immediately in the form of fogginess, irritability, fatigue, or forgetfulness. Honey offers natural sugars paired with enzymes and minerals, allowing the body to absorb them gently without the sharp spikes that processed sugar creates. This steadiness translates directly into mental clarity. Olive oil joins this work on a deeper level. Its polyphenols protect neurons from oxidative stress, the same invisible damage that accelerates cognitive decline, memory loss, and mood disturbances. Olive oil also provides the fats needed to build strong, healthy cell membranes in the brain. Every thought you think, every memory you store, every emotion you feel depends on the integrity of those membranes. When they are nourished, the brain communicates smoothly and clearly. Together, honey and olive oil support clearer thinking, steadier focus, and a calm, grounded state of mind. People often describe the experience as a lifting of the heaviness they did not even realize they were living with, a soft brightening inside the mind. And this is where ancient healing meets modern science. When the monks said honey and olive oil balance the energy pathways of the body, they were describing what researchers now call mitochondrial support. Mitochondria are the tiny power plants inside every cell. They determine how much energy you feel when you wake up, how strong you feel during the day, and how quickly you recover at night. Both honey and olive oil support these power plants. Honey offers gentle, immediately usable fuel. Olive oil protects the mitochondria from oxidative stress, strengthens their outer membranes, and helps them produce energy more efficiently. Science calls this improving metabolic function. Monks call it the awakening life force. But the experience is the same. You feel more awake in your own skin. You feel a steady strength instead of the jittery highs and crashing lows that come from processed foods. People notice they can think more clearly, move more easily, and breathe more deeply. They describe a sense of being reconnected with themselves, as though a fog has lifted and the world has become brighter. That is what nourishment does. It does not overpower the body. It supports it. It reminds it. It awakens the quiet intelligence that has been working inside you from the moment you were born. The mixture does not act only on organs. It reaches much further than that. It touches the blood itself, the river of life that carries nutrients, oxygen, hormones, and healing signals to every corner of your body. When honey enters this bloodstream, something extraordinary happens. Its natural sugars are accompanied by enzymes and minerals, so they enter slowly, steadily, without the sudden spikes that strain the pancreas and damage the delicate lining of the blood vessels. This slow entry allows the body to use the sugars as gentle fuel rather than treating them as an emergency. Olive oil joins this process like a calm guardian. It slows absorption even more, smoothing the release of glucose into a gentle curve instead of a sharp rise. This is why many people with insulin resistance feel more stable when they begin this mixture. Their energy no longer comes in chaotic waves. Their mood becomes calmer. Their hunger becomes more predictable. The body finally receives nourishment without being overwhelmed. It feels supported rather than shocked. Science calls this glycemic regulation. Ancient healers called it steadiness of spirit. But the experience is the same. You feel balanced. You feel grounded. You feel like the body has taken a deep breath and is finally exhaling. And the benefits travel even further, all the way to the skin and hair, the outer expressions of inner health. Honey is one of nature's most precious gifts for the skin. It is naturally hydrating, drawing moisture from the air and locking it into the skin. It supports collagen, the protein that keeps the skin firm and youthful. It lightens pigmentation gently over time and reduces the redness and inflammation that make the skin look tired or irritated. For centuries, healers have used honey to soften scars and bring radiance back to dull or aging skin. Olive oil brings its own beauty. It softens fine lines and wrinkles with its rich, nourishing fats. It strengthens the skin barrier, the protective layer that keeps moisture in and irritants out. When this barrier is strong, the skin glows naturally because it is no longer fighting dehydration or inflammation. Olive oil is also deeply nourishing for the scalp. It strengthens the hair follicles, improves blood flow to the roots, and reduces dryness and breakage. The result is something almost everyone notices within weeks. The complexion brightens. The skin feels smoother to the touch. The hair regains its natural shine. These changes do not come from cosmetics or surface tricks. They come from within, from nourishment at the cellular level. This is what I love most about natural remedies. They do not force the body to look better. They help the body be better. And when the body is nourished, the outside reflects the inside, calm, hydrated, balanced, and alive. Honey and olive oil are not magic. They simply feed the body in the way it has been waiting for, often for many years. When the cells drink this nourishment, they respond beautifully. The skin softens, the hair strengthens, the mind calms, the blood steadies, and the entire body begins to move toward harmony. This, to me, is the essence of true healing: gentle, nourishing, consistent, and deeply rooted in nature. This is the essence of Buddhist healing philosophy, a truth whispered across mountains and monasteries for hundreds of years. The body is not a machine to be forced or fixed, no matter how often modern life tells us otherwise. It is a garden, a living landscape that responds to care, attention, and nourishment. And just like any garden, it cannot be rushed, pressured, or demanded into blooming. It must be tended with patience. If the soil is dry, you do not shout at it, you add water. If the roots are weak, you do not pull on the plant, you feed it. If the leaves are pale, you do not blame the tree, you give it light. Healing begins in the same way, not with force, but with kindness, not with urgency, but with steady nourishment, day after day. For centuries, monks understood that health is not merely the absence of illness. Health is balance, flow, ease, a body that breathes rather than fights, a mind that rests rather than races. When this balance returns, healing becomes almost effortless because the body remembers exactly what it was built to do. And in this simple mixture of honey and olive oil lies a ritual that supports that balance beautifully. You do not need complicated tools. You do not need expensive formulas. What you need is consistency and the willingness to give your body what it has quietly longed for. Prepare the mixture in the evening. Let it rest through the night. Take 1 spoonful before breakfast. This tiny ritual may look small, but nature works quietly, not loudly. The healing begins inside, long before you see it on the outside. Do this consistently for 30 days. Truly give yourself that gift. Allow the body 30 days to find its rhythm again. 30 days is long enough for new cells to form, for enzymes to adjust, for the microbiome to flourish, and for the energy pathways to strengthen. The body will respond. It always does when given what it needs. Not instantly, not all at once, but gently, steadily, reliably. You may notice your digestion becomes calmer, you may wake with clearer energy, your skin may glow a little more, your joints may feel a little freer. None of this is a coincidence. It is nourishment, reaching the soil of your inner garden. This, in every sense, is the heart of natural healing, not a miracle, not a magic trick, just the quiet intelligence of a body finely supported instead of ignored. If this message has touched something inside you, if it has reminded you that your body is capable of far more healing than you were ever told, I gently invite you to stay connected. If you found value in this story, please take a moment to tap the like button. And if you would like more natural teachings, more gentle guidance, and more of these healing traditions, I welcome you to subscribe and turn on the little bell so you don't miss the next lesson. And before you go, I would love to hear from you. Tell me in the comments what part of this story touched you the most. Your words may be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Until next time, may your body be nourished, may your heart be calm, and may your healing unfold gently.